Summer's here, and Nordstrom has everything you need for your best dress season ever. From beach days and weddings to weekend getaways and your everyday wardrobe. Discover stylish options under $100 from tons of your favorite brands like Mango, Skims, Princess Polly, and Madewell. It's easy too with free shipping and free returns, in-store order pickup, and more. Shop today in stores, online at Nordstrom.com, or download the Nordstrom app.
At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can even finish the bachelor's degree you started in 22 months for $20,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by pace, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.
This is Optimal Finance Daily. How can you afford to travel the world? By Paula Pant of affordanything.com. Today, we have a question from the Reader Mailbag, Travel Edition. Today's question comes from Maggie. She asks, quote, "Please, could you give more details on how you were able to afford to travel the world? What your planned budget was ahead of time, how you earned money ahead of time, how you saved money while you were traveling, such as couch surfing or hostels. What other ways you cut expenses on food, transportation, and lodging, admission to tourist spots, etc. I really would like to know. More specifics would help me evaluate if or how I could implement this in my life." End quote. Maggie, if you want to travel around the world, do it. People regret chances they don't take more than they regret the opportunities they took. Let's tackle your questions one by one. Number 1, what was your budget? I budgeted $1,000 per month, excluding airfare and health insurance. That turned out to be an overestimate. In the Middle East, I spent $600 to $700 per month. And that includes the high cost of being on the go, such as bus fare. If I had been grounded in just one city, I could have probably gotten by on $500. Southeast Asia had the same price tag. Food and housing cost more, but my travel pace slowed. Those 2 factors balanced each other out. Australia, where I spent 10 months, and Europe, where I spent 3 months, both cost me an average of $22 to $25 per day, which comes to $660 to $750 per month. My quality of life, the sacrifices I made in order to live so cheaply, was rougher in Europe and Oz. I lived large in Asia and the Middle East, where $700 a month bought me daily massages and unlimited iced coffees. Number 2, how did you earn money ahead of time? Back in the US, I worked full-time as a newspaper reporter and editor. My starting salary was $21,000 per year. No one goes into journalism for the money. But I hustled. I worked full-time during the day and wrote freelance articles at night. I freelanced for food magazines and for women's magazines. I reviewed Broadway shows touring through Denver. I wrote for niche publications for the engraving industry. How random is that? And the smoothie franchise industry, random again. I wrote until my fingers hurt. Earning is half the battle, saving is the other half. I lived in a cramped studio apartment. My $400 car was so rusty that puddles would splash into my lap as I drove. I whittled my living expenses down to $1,000 per month, including rent. I saved the rest. Number 3, how did you save money while traveling? Couchsurfing.org, a not-for-profit website that lets you sleep on strangers' couches around the world, is a fantastic tool in some cities and hopeless in others. In my experience, couchsurfing works best in cities with low demand and less competition. I couchsurfed my way around Portugal, but it felt impossible to find a couch in Paris. If you're considering couchsurfing.org, start hosting travelers while you're at home. Accept invitations from strangers. In the offline world, or the real world, Plenty of locals invited me into their home for the night. It's amazing how many friendships you make just by striking up a conversation in a park or at the beach. And these aren't just young backpacker types who are eager to host. As I was using a free grill at an Australian park, I met a man in his 70s with a gorgeous wife in her 50s who invited me to stay at his home in northern Tasmania so I could watch his town's annual penny farthing competition. A penny farthing is one of those bikes with a huge front wheel and a tiny back wheel. Apparently, there's a small town in Tasmania that dedicates an entire weekend to competitive penny farthing races. I had never heard of a penny farthing before I met him, but how could you say no to a guy in plaid suspenders and a bow tie? I spent a week with him and his wife, didn't spend a penny, no pun intended, that entire time, and created fantastic new friendships with his entire family. Of course, staying with people either through formal venues like couch surfing or through informal venues like meeting 70-year-olds in a city park only accounts for about 20% of my total accommodation. The rest of the time, I'd stay in hostels in Europe or South America or in guest houses in Asia. During the times I traveled alone, countries that only offer guest houses sell private rooms, which are pricier than shared hostel rooms. I'd keep my eyes peeled for another female solo traveler. After some small talk, I'd ask her to be my roommate. During my first trip to Thailand, I've since returned 5 times. I randomly met and became insta friends with a British girl who rowed to the islands on the same boat that I did. We roomed together, traveled together for a few weeks, and to this day, years and years later, we still keep tabs on each other through Facebook. In other words, the more you travel, the more friends you make worldwide. And the more your friends are scattered across the globe, the more you're able to travel. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. You simply have to launch it. And number 4, how else did you cut expenses? We've covered lodging costs pretty thoroughly by now. Admission to tourist spots. My litmus test is, will I regret not going here? The Taj Mahal had a $20 admission fee, and it was worth every penny. The temple relics of Bagan in Burma, the ancient ruins of Angkor Wat, the Komodo dragons of Indonesia, the Van Gogh Museum in the Netherlands, the all-day boat to the Great Barrier Reef, the site of Jesus' crucifixion, these are absolutely worth the admission fee. But some random museum for yet another obscure artist I've never heard of? No thanks. Transportation. I took one trip, Denver to Spain, through frequent flyer miles. The rest of the time, when I had to fly, which was rarely, I used local airlines. In Europe, Ryanair and EastJet are the cheapest carriers. In Asia, I used AirAsia. They offer a $99 ticket from London to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Occasionally, I'd encounter hiccups that would cost me dearly. Last June, when hundreds of pilots went on strike, I ended up stranded in Colombia and scrambled to buy a last-minute emergency ticket. But if frugality is a habit, you have a cushion to cover these costs. Food. The only time I ate at a fancy restaurant was on my birthday. The rest of the time, I ate in small cafes and roadside stalls. I stopped eating meat in many places where I traveled, mostly for sanitary reasons. As an unintended consequence, this saved me a lot of money as well. I also limited my alcohol consumption, especially in Muslim countries where there's a hefty sin tax on beer. Lots of travelers spend tons of cash on booze, then complain that they can't afford to do something awesome like scuba diving. You just listened to the post titled, "How Can You Afford to Travel the World?" by Paula Pant of affordanything.com. Imagine you're a business owner who has to rely on a dozen different software programs to run your company, none of which are connected. And each one is more expensive and more complicated than the last. It can be pretty stressful. Now imagine Odoo. Odoo has all the programs you'll ever need, and they're all connected on one simple, easy-to-use platform. giving you peace of mind that your business is always being taken care of from every angle. Odoo has user-friendly open source applications for everything. We're talking CRM, accounting, inventory, manufacturing, marketing, HR, and everything in between. Basically, if your business needs it, Odoo's got it. Odoo sounds pretty amazing, right? So stop wasting your time and money on those expensive, disconnected platforms and let Odoo harmonize your business with simple, efficient software that can handle everything for a fraction of the price. It doesn't get much better than that. So what are you waiting for? Discover how Odoo can take your business to the next level by visiting odoo.com. That's ODOO.com. Odoo, modern management made simple. This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Apple Card is a no-fee credit card that gives you daily cash back every day. That's 3% back at Apple and 2% back on every purchase made with Apple Card using Apple Pay. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on your iPhone today. Subject to credit approval. Variable APRs for Apple Card range from 18.24% to 28.49% based on creditworthiness. Rates as of January 1st, 2025. Apple Card issued by Goldman Sachs Bank, USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com. I've always appreciated Paula's mantra that you can afford anything, just not everything. If you really want to, you can afford to travel the world, but you will need to cut costs in other areas that aren't as important to you and continually prioritize your travel goals. When you're resourceful and creative, you'll be amazed at the ways you figure out how to cut costs. I'm also a big fan of staying with new friends or friends of friends when I'm traveling. Yes, it's a way to save money, but I look at that as a secondary benefit. When you stay with a local, you get insider information on the best things to see, the best places to eat, etc. And you get to have fun getting to know someone new. Some of my best memories exploring a new place were driven by the people I was with. I'm reminded of a long weekend I spent in San Diego. It was my first time there, and I stayed with a friend of a friend who I never met before. This sweet couple and their young daughter were so excited to show me all their favorite spots and show off what they love about their city. They were also incredibly fun, and we laughed a ton. Sure, I could have seen all that stuff on my own, but I suspect I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. Their company made a world of difference in my experience. And that will do it for today. Have a great day and start to your weekend. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back here reading to you tomorrow, where your optimal life awaits.